Well, folks, it's finally here, my dream locomotive. This is something that I've wanted my entire life, and I finally did it. I took the plunge and I bought this thing, and I'm so happy I did, and I really can't wait to unbox it. So this is by far the most expensive locomotive I've ever purchased. It actually cost me 600 Canadian dollars, which is not something I usually spend on a locomotive, but this thing is really special to me. It's a Swedish locomotive, actually, and that might seem sort of odd, you know. Why are you spending that sort of money on a Swedish locomotive? But in the beginning of the early 90s, a company shipped an entire Swedish train with steam locomotive diesel cars up to Canada, and they used to operate a tourist railway up around where I live. And my grandfather lived beside the track, so it's the same line that actually used to go up to Wakefield. And anyway, every weekend, me and my dad would head over there, and my grandfather, my grandmother, and my dad, they would all have coffee, and we would I'd sit there and watch little cartoons or just hang around with them. And then we'd hear the whistle in the distance, and the train only went about 40 kilometers an hour. So when we heard the whistle, we had plenty of time, and we'd go down to the track and watch it go by. And yeah, there's so many great memories. And I've always wanted a model of this train, but there just really hasn't been any. But it's something, even when I was a kid, I always thought, man, it would be so cool to have a model of the train. You know, I saw so much, you know. I'm a believer that this train that used to operate here is why I like trains so much. I mean, I watched, you know, Thomas and Friends when I was younger, but, you know, I feel like growing up with this train was definitely a much bigger influence. And, yeah, this Swedish website was selling one. This was actually the cheaper option. They had another brass model, but that was going for $3,000, so that's something I definitely couldn't afford. But this thing, well, it just means a lot, and I couldn't help myself, so I figured, what the heck. So there we are. There's some of the specifications. We're gonna take this off. This is so fancy right here. Really cut. Bachmann Europe. It's a Bachmann locomotive. Well, still something that I've always wanted. I don't really care by who it's made. It's funny, I thought it was made by a different company, but yeah, there it is. I can't believe it right now. There's the train. It's beautiful. We have to get this thing out of the box and get it out on the track. So there is the train in all of its glory, and these are all the various instructions for it. But anyway, this is not the exact train that operated on here. It's the exact same kind. So the locomotive that operated here was 909. This one's number 904, so it's a little bit different, but it's practically identical. So I'm going to need to modify it a little bit. It is also in the Swedish paint scheme. But the funny thing is the first year of the steam train being up in the area, they never repainted it. So there was a completely like Swedish train through and through operating in Canada, which is really odd. But I mean, I grew up with it, so to me it looks very natural here, but I'm sure for a lot of rail enthusiasts it must have been something really peculiar. So anyway, here is our locomotive. This is so exciting. Like, I'm not sure if you can tell, but I'm really, like, excited by this. Wow. And there it is. That is absolutely incredible. I have to show you guys the detail on this thing. This is just... So here's my dream childhood train. I really cannot believe the detail on this thing. It's something like no other. I'm pretty sure you could classify this as a rivet counter. I mean, it really is just incredible, the amount of detail on it. I'm no expert on Swedish steam locomotives, but yeah, just look at like every single little rivet, and let's see right there, I got the headlight and everything. I believe it's pretty much got all the bells and whistles too. I'm gonna have to change the coupler. I did order a new coupler for it from the same website, so hopefully that will be easy to install there. And yeah, the thing is, like, this looks identical to the train that used to operate here. Like, they really did not change much on it. Like, it's a slightly different number. And the railway eventually did repaint the locomotive to change it up a little bit. And yeah, it went through many different minor cosmetic paint schemes throughout the years. It was actually in a movie back in, I think it was 1999. The movie was called Grey Owl, and it was supposed to be, the story took place actually in Wakefield, and they dressed it up to look like a train in, I believe, the late 1800s. So it was sort of funny, a Swedish steam locomotive in a Canadian film. But they had dressed it up a little bit, so they had repainted the plow and everything like that. And in the case of this model, I'm going to order a plow. They have other models that have the correct plow, but the other models that had the correct plow didn't have the headlight, which was something that is on the real train. So yeah, I had to order it up as is, but eventually I want to order the correct plow for it to complete it as the entire train. And the train up here too, again, this thing is going to require a tiny bit of modification to make it look like the train that used to operate up here, but it's really not that far off the mark, and it is something that I'm really blown away by. So this is just so special right now. I can't tell you what it means. Like, this train really meant so much to me when it was running. Unfortunately, the track washed out in 2011. I actually saw it run on the very last day, and I had no idea then that was going to be the last time I was going to see the train go by. Crazy times. Anyway, why don't we take this thing over to the track and test it, because I want to see how this thing runs. It is a DC model, but I'm sure it performs pretty well for a DC model nonetheless. The drive system on it, I suspect, is pretty mint. Anyway, let's go take this thing over to the track. Well, here she is all set up on the track. I really can't believe this right now. It just looks so authentic to the train that I know so well there, and I really can't wait to see this thing run. So without further ado, let's give this thing some power and see it move for the first time. Wow. Just look at that. It's got working lights on the tender as well. Wow. It's just amazing. So many memories. Some of the detail on this unit I absolutely can't believe. You can see right there that the cabin is in fact lit, and if you look very carefully, that is a lit firebox right there. Really impressive detail on this model. Well, folks, that's gonna be it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. I really cannot believe this locomotive. It's just so authentic, and reminds me like so much of the real train, and it as a result I just find it so special, and yeah, I'm really glad I decided to order one up. It's been something I've been contemplating doing for a while now, and I think the timing was right for it, so yeah, I'm so happy to have this new locomotive, and I'd love to get a Lima T43 Swedish diesel, and I could paint it up. After they did repaint the train, and basically they repainted it in sort of like a white and green paint scheme. It was a little bit of an unusual paint scheme, but that's the paint scheme that I grew up with, so as a result, you know, I kind of want to make it similar to that. I want to make all the cars look like they have got the right paint scheme. I don't care so much if the cars are not perfectly authentic to the real train, but I wanted the locomotive to be something pretty sincere, and yeah, if I can find a T43 diesel, then I think it's going to be looking really good. So yeah, that'll be it for today's video. I want to thank you all so much for watching.